Have you ever wondered why people only realize your worth when you're gone? Why the same person who once ignored your presence suddenly starts chasing when you withdraw? There's a powerful reason for this, and if you stay with me until the end, you'll understand exactly how to make him feel the weight of losing you. Because here's the truth. No one values what they think they will always have. Human nature is predictable. We crave what we cannot have, and we take for granted what seems permanent. When you are always available, when you're always forgiving, when you keep giving chances, your presence becomes expected, not appreciated. And the moment something becomes expected, it loses its value. That's why walking away isn't just about leaving, it's about shifting the power dynamic. The human brain is wired to react to loss more intensely than to gain. Psychologists call this loss aversion. The fear of losing something is twice as powerful as the joy of gaining it. That's why a man doesn't fully appreciate you when you're present, but the moment you leave, he feels a void so deep it shakes him. It's not because he suddenly realized your worth, it's because he feels your absence. And feelings are what drive people, not logic. But here's where most women get it wrong. They think walking away is about punishing him. It's not. It's about reclaiming your self-worth. Because a woman who knows her value never has to prove it. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't chase after someone who treats her as an option. She doesn't stay where she is not valued. And that kind of confidence, it's magnetic. When you walk away with certainty, you send a message stronger than words. I am not afraid to lose you, but you should be afraid to lose me. And that fear, that's what makes a man rethink everything, because suddenly the person who was always there isn't anymore. The good morning texts stop, the calls go unanswered, the emotional support he once relied on disappears. And that's when it hits him. You were never a convenience. You were the foundation, and now that foundation is gone. This is the moment when regret starts to creep in. He may not show it immediately. He might act like he doesn't care. But trust me, he feels it. He starts to notice the absence of your warmth, your kindness, your unwavering presence. And the hardest pill to swallow? He realizes that no one else will ever be you. But here's what separates a strong woman from the rest. She doesn't walk away just to teach him a lesson. She walks away because she finally understands she was the prize all along. She walks away because her peace is more important than proving a point. She walks away because she refuses to stay where she isn't appreciated, and in doing so, she forces him to feel the one thing no man ever wants to feel, the pain of losing a woman he never thought he'd lose. So stay until the end of this video, because by the time we're done, you'll know exactly how to shift the power, reclaim your worth, and make him feel the weight of your absence in a way he'll never forget. Do you know why people start neglecting what once felt like a blessing? Why someone who once admired you, chased you, and valued you suddenly begins to treat you like an afterthought? It's because comfort kills appreciation. Human nature is built on a dangerous habit. We stop valuing what we believe will never leave. When something is always present, it stops feeling special. That's why the sunrise, as beautiful as it is, doesn't leave people in awe every morning. It's there, it's predictable, it's expected, and this is exactly what happens in relationships. When you give too much, when you are too available, when you constantly forgive, you unknowingly teach him one thing: you will always be there no matter what. And once he believes that, he stops trying. Because why would he put in effort when he thinks he doesn't have to? Why would he fear losing you when your actions have shown him that you will stay, even when he takes you for granted? But here's the bitter truth. People only appreciate what they fear losing, and when there is no fear, there is no urgency to cherish, to respect, or to nurture what they have. This is why many women feel unappreciated, exhausted, and emotionally drained in their relationships. They give and give, hoping that one day he will see their worth. But that day never comes. Not because he doesn't see it, but because he has never been forced to feel the consequences of losing it. People learn through experience, not through words. You can tell him you're valuable 1,000 times, but if your actions contradict that, if you keep accepting the bare minimum, if you keep staying despite the neglect, he will never truly believe it. Think about it. The things in life that you treasure the most are the ones you had to work for, the ones you had to fight to keep, the ones you knew could slip away if you weren't careful. That's how the human mind works. We value what feels scarce, not what feels guaranteed. So if you want him to respect you, if you want him to value you, you have to break the pattern. You have to stop proving your worth and start standing firm in it. Because the moment you remove yourself from a situation where you're being taken for granted, you disrupt his entire reality. Suddenly, the woman who is always there isn't. The good morning messages he ignored, gone. The emotional support he relied on, vanished. The warmth of your presence, missing. And in that silence, in that sudden absence, something powerful happens. He begins to realize. He realizes that your love was not a given, but a privilege. He realizes that the comfort he took for granted was actually rare. And most importantly, he realizes that you were never the one who needed him. He was the one who needed you. This is the shift that changes everything. But here's what you must understand. This is not about manipulation. It's about respect. It's about showing, not telling. It's about walking away from any situation where you are not valued, not to make someone chase you, but because you finally understand that you deserve more. And when you do this, when you reclaim your worth, he will feel the weight of his mistake. Not because you forced him to, but because life will show him. And trust me, there is no regret more painful than realizing you lost something that can never be replaced. Why is it that people only realize what they had when it's gone? Why does loss create an emotional impact that presence never could? Because the human mind is wired to resist loss more than it seeks gain. Psychologists call it loss aversion, the reality that losing something hurts far more than gaining something brings joy. And when someone loses a person who once cared for them, who once gave them warmth, loyalty, and unwavering support, it creates a void that is impossible to ignore. At first, he may not react. He may act like your absence doesn't affect him. But that's only because loss doesn't strike immediately. It unfolds in stages, creeping in like a slow-burning fire. The first stage? Denial. He convinces himself that you'll come back, that you'll break first, that your silence is temporary, because that's what he's used to. He has seen you forgive. He has seen you stay. His mind refuses to believe that this time something is different. But then it hits him. Days pass. Your name doesn't appear on his screen. Your voice doesn't fill his ears. The comfort of knowing you'll always be there, gone. And suddenly, the silence becomes unbearable. This is when panic sets in. The mind starts to connect the dots. He remembers the late-night conversations, the way you cared, the way your presence felt like home. He replays old memories, but instead of feeling comfort, he feels something else. Regret. And regret is a powerful thing. It's not just missing someone, it's knowing you had something valuable and let it slip away. It's realizing that you were irreplaceable, not because of what you gave, but because of who you were. But by the time he reaches this stage, something even more painful happens. He understands that getting you back is no longer in his control. Because a woman who truly walks away doesn't look back. She doesn't wait for an apology. She doesn't hope for a change. She moves forward, not to make him suffer, but because she knows that self-worth is non-negotiable. And this is what breaks him the most. Not the loss itself, but the realization that he took something rare and turned it into a memory he can never relive. The mind is cruel when it wakes up too late. Because once he starts to feel the emptiness, once he understands what he has lost, he won't just miss you. He will crave you. He will search for traces of you in other people, but they will never compare. Because no two souls are the same. And what you gave him, that was once in a lifetime. But by then, the only thing left for him will be the weight of his own choices. And that weight, it is heavier than any words could ever be. Have you ever noticed how the moment you stop chasing, people start paying attention? How the second you pull away, the same person who once ignored you begins to wonder where you went? This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is psychology. Energy is everything. the way you carry yourself, the way you respond, the way you choose to stay or walk away, it all sends a message. And when you shift your energy, you shift how people perceive you. When you were giving everything, when you were always available, your energy said, I need you to see me, I need you to choose me. But the moment you stop, your energy says something entirely different. I don't need you. I choose myself. And that shift, that's when everything changes. Because people don't chase what is already in their hands. They chase what is slipping away. They desire what feels uncertain. They crave what they can no longer predict. The moment you stop proving your worth and start living as if you already know it, something powerful happens. You disrupt his reality. He was used to you being predictable. He was used to you waiting. He was used to the comfort of knowing that no matter what, you were still there, but suddenly you're not. And now his mind starts to spin. He starts wondering, he starts doubting, he starts questioning everything he thought he knew about you. Because the woman who once needed his validation is gone. The woman who kept trying is no longer trying. And now, for the first time, he is the one feeling the uncertainty. This is how attraction works. It's not about being the most beautiful. It's not about saying the right words. It's about the energy you carry. Confidence is magnetic. Indifference is powerful. A woman who is no longer attached to the outcome is the most irresistible force in the world. And here's the truth. When you reclaim your power, you don't just make him wonder, you make him regret, because now he sees something he never saw before. He sees that you were never chasing him. You were giving him the privilege of being in your life. And now that privilege is gone. That's when the fear kicks in. The fear that maybe you won't come back. The fear that maybe someone else is seeing the value he ignored. The fear that maybe, just maybe, he lost something he will never get again. And that fear, that's what makes him feel the loss on a level he never expected. But by the time he realizes it, the question is no longer about whether he wants you back. The real question is, will you even care anymore? Why is it that your absence has more impact than your presence ever did? Why does someone only start valuing you the moment you are no longer there? Because loss forces reflection. When you were always there, he had no reason to question your worth. You were a constant in his life. Someone he could rely on, someone who gave without asking for much in return. But the problem with consistency is that people mistake it for permanence. They assume you will always be there no matter how they treat you. But the moment you walk away, everything changes. The space you once filled is now empty. The energy you once poured into him is gone. The warmth of your presence has turned into silence. And in that silence, his mind begins to wake up, because now he has no choice but to confront what he lost. At first, he may act like he doesn't care. He may try to convince himself that your absence doesn't affect him. But human nature is predictable. We do not feel the weight of something until it is no longer within reach. And when it finally hits him, it won't be just a realization. It will be a reckoning. The late night thoughts will start creeping in. He will wonder where you are. He will wonder if you still think about him. He will wonder if someone else is now receiving the love and loyalty he once took for granted. And that thought, it will haunt him. Because the hardest thing for a man to accept is that he lost a woman who would have given him everything. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she started loving herself more. And this is where the true power of your absence lies. It's not about making him suffer. It's not about teaching him a lesson. It's about showing him through action that you will not stay where you are not valued, that you will not beg for attention, that you will not settle for less than you deserve. Because a woman who walks away with grace is unforgettable. She doesn't need revenge. She doesn't need closure. She doesn't need to explain why she left. Her absence speaks louder than words ever could. And the moment he realizes that, the pain of losing you becomes something he can never escape. At first, he convinces himself that losing you is no big deal. He tells himself that he'll be fine, that life will go on as usual. He might even act like he doesn't care. But that's just a defense mechanism. A fragile shield against a reality he isn't ready to face. Because deep down, something has shifted. The absence of someone who truly cared isn't just noticed, it's felt, and the mind, when left in silence, has a cruel way of replaying the past. The memories come back stronger. The moments he took for granted suddenly feel irreplaceable. The things he ignored, the way you laughed, the way you listened, the way you made even the smallest moments feel significant, begin to haunt him. This is when the emotional storm begins. First comes frustration. He gets irritated over the smallest things. The world feels off balance. He doesn't realize it yet, but it's not the world that changed, it's him. He lost the one thing that made his life feel steady, and now he feels it slipping further away. Then comes denial. He convinces himself that he can move on easily, that you were just another person, that he'll replace you. But no matter where he looks, no matter how many distractions he tries to find, something is missing. Because what you gave wasn't just attention, it was depth, and depth is rare. Then comes jealousy. The thought of you being happy without him starts to eat at him. He wonders if someone else is appreciating what he took for granted, if someone else is getting the love he once had, but the idea of you thriving, glowing, moving forward without him, that is what truly starts to break him. And finally comes regret, because now reality has sunk in. He had something real, he had someone who cared, and he lost it. Not because you weren't enough, but because he failed to see it while he had the chance. Regret is the heaviest emotion a person can carry. It doesn't just remind him of what he lost, it reminds him that he had the power to keep it, and he chose not to. But by the time he reaches the stage, something even more painful happens. He realizes that you're no longer waiting. That's when the regret turns into something deeper, an ache that never really goes away. There is a moment when everything changes. A moment when he stops pretending, stops denying, and finally admits the truth to himself. You're not coming back. And that's when the real pain begins. Because before, there was still hope. Hope that you would reach out. Hope that time would pull you back. Hope that the cycle would repeat just like it always did. But this time, there's only silence. And silence is deafening when regret fills the air. He checks his phone, but there are no messages from you. He scrolls through old conversations, but they feel like a past life, one he can't return to. He sees places that remind him of you, hears songs that once made you both smile, and suddenly everything carries your shadow. This is where reality becomes unbearable, because now it's no longer about missing you in passing thoughts. It's about feeling your absence in every part of his life. He wakes up and there's no good morning text. He has a bad day and realizes he can't turn to you for comfort. He achieves something great and there's no one to celebrate with the way you used to. It's in these moments that the regret solidifies into something permanent. Not just the pain of losing you, but the pain of knowing he could have chosen differently. And this is where the cycle of realization truly unfolds. First, he tries to distract himself. He surrounds himself with people, with noise, with anything that stops him from thinking about what he lost. But no matter where he turns, something is missing. Then he convinces himself that he doesn't care, that life will go on, that you were just another chapter in his story. But this illusion shatters the moment he sees you moving forward without him. Because that's when the most painful realization of all hits him. You were never waiting for him to change. You were never hoping he'd come back. You were simply done. And that's the moment he understands. He didn't just lose you. He lost the version of you that once cared. The version of you that would have done anything for him. The version of you that believed in his potential even when he failed to see it himself. And that version, she's gone. That's when he feels the weight of his choices in a way that no words can fix, no apologies can erase, and no amount of regret can undo. Regret is one thing, but realization, that's something far deeper. Because regret means he misses you. Realization means he understands what he lost. And that understanding, it changes everything. At first he thought he could replace you, that he could move on, find someone new and fill the space you left behind. But now something unexpected happens. No one else feels the same. No one else challenges him like you did. No one else makes him feel seen the way you did. And for the first time, he understands you are not just another person. You were the one who believed in him when he doubted himself, the one who saw his potential when he was blind to it, the one who gave without asking for anything in return. But now you're gone. And nothing in his life feels the same anymore. Because when someone truly sees you, when someone genuinely loves you, their absence is not something you simply get over. It's something you carry, and he carries it. Every day, in every moment where he wishes he had treated you differently, in every silent thought where he wonders what could have been if he had just chosen to be better. And now a new fear begins to creep in, the fear that you've moved on. That someone else has stepped into the space he once held, that someone else is now receiving the love he once had. And that fear, that's what truly breaks him. Because it's not just the loss of you that hurts. It's the realization that he had his chance and he let it slip away. And now, for the first time, he is the one left wondering if you ever think about him, wondering if he will ever get another chance, wondering if you will ever look back. But deep down, a part of him already knows the answer. Because when a woman like you walks away, when she finally chooses herself, she never looks back. The weight of regret grows heavier with time. At first, he tried to ignore it. He told himself he'd be fine, that life would move forward, that the feelings would fade. But they didn't. Because some losses don't heal, some mistakes don't have second chances, and some people, once they leave, never return. And now that truth haunts him, so he does what most people do when they realize they've lost something irreplaceable. He tries to get it back. Maybe it starts with a simple message, a casual check-in, just to see if you'll respond. Maybe he finds an excuse to reach out, pretending it's about something meaningless when in reality it's about everything. But deep down, he knows. He knows he's not just texting you. He's reaching for something he lost, something he hopes isn't gone forever. But this time, things are different. Because now, he doesn't have the same power over you. Now, his words don't hold the same weight. Now, you've stepped into a version of yourself that no longer seeks validation from someone who once made you feel like an option. And that's when the pain truly sets in. Because he thought he had time. He thought that one day, if he ever wanted to, he could come back and find you still there. But now he sees that you've moved forward. And he realizes that his biggest mistake wasn't losing you. It was assuming you would always be waiting. The desperation kicks in. He might try harder now. He might remind you of the good times, say all the things he should have said before. He might promise change, beg for another chance, tell you he finally understands what you meant to him, but it's too late. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you've outgrown the person you used to be when you loved him. You've healed, you've learned, you've found a version of yourself that doesn't need to look back. And that's when he realizes the most painful truth of all. He didn't just lose you. He lost the privilege of ever having you again. At first, he thought he could fix this. That if he just said the right words, made the right promises, showed enough effort, you would give him another chance. But now, reality has set in, and the truth is undeniable. He lost you, and this time, there's no way back. He replays the past over and over again in his mind, searching for the exact moment he let you slip away. Was it when he took you for granted? Was it when he ignored your needs? Was it when he assumed you would always be there, no matter how little he gave in return? The answer doesn't matter anymore, because knowing what went wrong doesn't change the fact that he can't go back and fix it. And that realization, that's the kind of pain that lingers. Because now he has to live with the consequences of his actions. He has to wake up every morning knowing that someone else could be the reason you smile. He has to go through life understanding that no matter how much he wants to, he will never again hold the same place in your heart. And worst of all, he has to accept that he did this to himself. It's not that life was unfair. It's not that fate was cruel. It's that he had something rare, something real, and he let it slip away. Now, all he can do is watch from a distance as you move forward, as you glow in your newfound strength, as you become everything he once failed to appreciate. And that is a pain far worse than simply losing someone. Because when you lose someone to circumstance, there is sadness. But when you lose someone by your own mistakes, there is regret that never fades. There's a kind of pain that doesn't fade with time. A kind of emptiness that lingers no matter how much he tries to distract himself, because now he's not just dealing with regret, he's dealing with the finality of losing you. At first, he convinced himself it was temporary, that maybe, just maybe, life would bring you back together, that time would soften your heart and one day he'd get another chance. But now he sees the truth. You're not looking back, and that realization is suffocating. Because for so long he thought he had control, that he could come and go as he pleased, that no matter what happened, you'd always be there, holding space for him, waiting for the day he finally chose you the way you once chose him. But that's not reality anymore. Reality is watching you move forward with a strength he never thought you had. Reality is knowing that someone else may now be standing where he used to. Reality is understanding that he is no longer a part of your world, not because you lost feelings for him too fast, but because he forced you to. And nothing prepares a man for the moment he realizes the door is closed forever. He might try one last time, a desperate attempt to rewrite the ending, to undo the damage. Maybe it's a long message pouring out feelings he should have shared when you were still listening. Maybe it's a call, his voice shaking as he asks if there's still a chance. But deep down he already knows the answer. Because you're different now. You're no longer the woman who would have dropped everything just to hear him out. You're no longer waiting for words that should have been spoken long ago. You're no longer living in a space where his validation holds power over you. And that's the part that hurts the most. Because he always believed you needed him more than he needed you. He always thought he had the upper hand. But now he understands. He was replaceable. You were not. And that pain, that's the kind of pain that never truly leaves, because he has to live with the knowledge that he once had something rare, something real, and he let it slip through his fingers. There's a moment when everything becomes clear, a moment when he finally understands what he had, what he lost, and why nothing feels the same anymore. He thought he could move on. He thought time would make it easier, that one day he would wake up and the weight of losing you would be gone, but it isn't. Because no one else compares, no one else makes him feel the way you did, no one else understands him the way you did. And now he sees the truth. He lost the best thing that ever happened to him. It's not just the memories that haunt him, it's the feeling of what could have been if he had just chosen differently, if he had valued you the way you deserved, if he had been the man you needed him to be. He replays every moment in his mind, the way you looked at him with love even when he didn't deserve it, the way you stood by him even when he pushed you away, the way you gave your heart fully, without hesitation, without holding back. And now he realizes that love like that doesn't come twice. He searches for you in others, but no one has your energy, no one carries your warmth, no one matches your soul. And the deeper he sinks into this realization, the more he understands. He wasn't just loved by you, he was chosen by you. And he took that for granted. The regret is unbearable now, because the kind of love you gave him was the kind that only comes once in a lifetime, and he let it slip away. There is no going back. There is no fixing it. There is only the empty space where you used to be. And that is the kind of loss that stays with a man forever. Because he didn't just lose you, he lost the only person who ever truly loved him for who he was. There comes a time when a man has to face the truth, not the version of reality he created in his mind, not the excuses he told himself, but the cold, undeniable truth. He lost you, and there's nothing he can do to change that. At first he thought he had time, that if he just waited long enough, maybe your heart would soften, that if he reached out at the right moment, said the right words, or proved he had changed, he could fix what was broken. But time didn't work in his favor, because time didn't make you miss him, it made you stronger. He watches from a distance as you become someone even more powerful than before. He sees you thriving, stepping into your confidence, radiating the kind of energy he once tried to dim. And he knows he's no longer a part of your world. This is where the real pain begins, because now he realizes that love isn't just about feelings, it's about effort, about actions, about showing up when it matters most. And he didn't. He let pride control him. He let his ego make the choices. He thought love would wait for him. But love doesn't wait. It moves forward. He feels it in the silence, the absence of your voice, the missing presence of your warmth, the empty space where your love used to be. And no matter what he does now, no matter how much he regrets, no matter how much he wishes he could turn back time, some things can't be undone. This is the weight he will carry. The knowledge that he had something rare, something real, something most people spend a lifetime searching for, and he let it slip away. Some losses feel temporary, some feel like setbacks, but then there are the losses that leave a permanent mark, the ones that follow you through life, whispering reminders of what could have been. And for him, you are that loss. At first, he tried to convince himself that he could move on, that with time, someone else would come along and fill the space you left behind. But no matter where he looks, no matter how many distractions he seeks, one truth remains unshaken. You were the one, and he let you go. That realization is crushing, because now he understands that what you both had wasn't ordinary. It wasn't just another love story, another chapter in his life. It was the story. The kind of connection that people search for but rarely find. The kind of love that only happens once. But love like that doesn't survive neglect. It doesn't thrive in indifference. And it doesn't wait for someone to finally realize its worth. He wishes he had known this sooner. He wishes he had seen what was right in front of him before it became just a memory. But life doesn't give second chances for the lessons you learned too late. Now he is left with nothing but the echoes of what used to be, the sound of your laughter in his mind, the warmth of your love that once felt so certain, the vision of a future that will never exist. And the worst part, he knows you're not coming back. Not because you stopped loving him too soon, not because you were too impatient, but because you finally realized your own worth. And that is the moment he understands what true loss really feels like. There's a kind of regret that fades over time. A small mistake, a missed opportunity, a wrong turn that life eventually corrects. But then there's the kind of regret that never leaves. Losing you is that kind of regret. At first he thought he could outrun it. He tried to distract himself, burying the weight of his loss under work, friends, meaningless conversations. But no matter how far he runs, it follows him. No matter how much he tries to silence it, the truth still speaks. He lost something priceless. Because it wasn't just about love. It wasn't just about a relationship. It was about you. The woman who saw him for who he truly was. The woman who believed in him when he didn't even believe in himself. The woman who would have stood beside him through anything, if only he had given her a reason to stay. And now, he sees you glowing without him, thriving, rising, becoming someone even greater than before. And nothing prepares a man for that moment. The moment he realizes that he was never the reason for your strength. You were always strong on your own. That's the pain he will carry forever, because he will go through life meeting people who may like him, admire him, or even love him. But none of them will ever be you. None of them will understand him the way you did. None of them will make him feel the way you made him feel. None of them will bring the same kind of fire, the same kind of depth, the same kind of once-in-a-lifetime presence that you carried so effortlessly. And so the regret stays, not just because he lost you,